Hello. Thank you guys for having me. I'm
No, thank you,
honored
man.
you asked. No, I really appreciate it.
I mean, we try and keep up to date on everything current,
Hmm.
nerdy and stuff, and a lot of that we both have had this weird obsession with just like voice acting. I mean, because I think because we grew up on anime, it was tsunami and stuff was real
Oh yeah.
prevalent,
For
and
sure.
it was just that I this is amazing. Like I would pay more money, like they put big names on top of movie posters, so you pay more money for it because those names grab you. I'm like, I feel the same way about these voice actors, so I really want to get to know them, get to know who's doing it. That way I can also follow your guys' what you're doing, because it's always going to be good work, man.
Oh yeah.
That is so appreciated.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of one of the big reasons why we started our we've since dubbed it our Get to Know series. Because you guys and voice actors and nerd pop culture people, lack of better words right now.
It's quite all right.
Tired dad. I mean, that's just who I am.
That's a full-time job unto itself.
That's right. But you go to these conventions and it's always about, okay, the show. What are you doing? But not as many people just sit down and like get to know who you are behind all those voices. So that's one of the things we like to do. So
Yeah, so we want to know like what sort of got you to geek out in life growing up.
Oh man, everything. I geek out. I'm one of those people who I've always been, even I'm in my mid 30s or early mid 30s. I don't know what you can say. I'm 34. So growing up, even when I was a kid, I was very much proud of being a nerd, even if it wasn't cool.
Right.
I think I just realized at an early age that anybody was a nerd about anything that they were passionate about.
Yeah.
My friends who liked sports were sports nerds. They just didn't know that was, the
that was the
reality.
term. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the
um,
sort of popular joke is that fantasy football is just D&D for people who grow up playing sports.
for sure.
I mean-
Yeah, well, it's all that stuff. And I think, now obviously we've really seen how much of the lines are truly blurred because it's just everybody
Yeah.
just loves all this stuff no matter what. And it was just this like bizarre, kind of culture war that was created out of silliness back then. But
Right.
I grew up I loved, film really early on was like my first like real hardcore nerd out on
Yeah.
like it was funny because it was, my parents were showing me Chaplin films and like, a lot of like silent films and like early cinema that was very, what a lot of kids I think wouldn't necessarily click to, but I was
Yeah.
just immediately zoned in on it and I just
Yeah.
fell in love with the language of cinema. But I was equally, I was watching Looney Tunes and all the cartoons, like obsessed. I would watch anytime Bugs Bunny was on screen. I needed to have carrots. It would instantly.
Oh, I know. That was
Right.
that was
The
definitely-
You
sound
had
and
to,
like,
so you could just
like when
what's up, Doc?
Space Jam came
absolutely.
out.
So
definitely.
and it was that thing where everything, I think for me it was the first realization of it was everything that I was really fascinated by. I felt like I needed to connect to in some way.
Right.
So it would be stuff like that, or any movie that I liked, whether it was animated or real life. I would dress up as the character as a kid. I was Alan Grant, from Jurassic Park when I was
Right
way
on.
too young, digging up dinosaur bones in my backyard because I was just like, they're here. I know they're here.
You want to be
Video
like that,
games,
kid from like where was it, Oklahoma or something, that found a dinosaur bone in his backyard.
I always wanted to
wanted
be
to-
that kid.
Oh,
I wanted
yeah.
to be that kid so badly. My parents thankfully nurtured, I like the amount of holes that were probably just like surrounding my parents' house at that time that I'm just like,
Yeah.
and they were totally cool with it. And I would like bring these rocks in and I would use their bathroom sink to like clean up the, just like dirt and shit off these rocks. And they're like, that's great. Yeah.
As long as you weren't
Totally.
using their toothbrush to clean it with.
Yeah. Exactly. And video games, from the start, I was playing Nintendo and everything, before I could walk, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And it was that thing where I just think I loved storytelling in general. I think that was my overall realization of what I loved. And anything that was going to tell me a story, I would gravitate to. And, it became a thing where the first time I experienced like, something outside of my immediate culture zone, in the sense of like, you kind of growing up in New York, it's especially in the early 90s, it wasn't like anime was, something accessible, so the first time I remember seeing something like that was on my school bus in like third or fourth grade, and a kid who was a year younger than me but was on my bus route was just, back then it was like anybody who was on your bus route, like you made friends with people on the bus and you chatted on the way,
Oh yeah.
And he and I were both the quiet kids, and there were always like the bullies and all the different things. So we were the two quiet kids on the bus. So we just kind of got along. And one day he brought Dragon Ball manga with him.
Nice.
And it was all in Japanese. There was nothing I could understand if I tried to read it, but I was immediately sucked in by the images, obviously. And I borrowed a couple from him, and I remember instantly like obsessing, where I would follow the story just from the pictures alone, because it was so well told. And then I was obsessed. I started drawing them and like, it was just this thing where I was like, this is a whole other language that I don't, and I don't mean just, the actual language. I meant the art style and the story development. And I was like, I need to find out more of this. And I loved comic books as a kid, so I had a local shop nearby that I could walk to. And, I was already invested in the classics and stuff. But at this point I was like, wait, they might have this stuff here. These are comics. Like, and it opened up that whole world for me. So I was lucky enough that at a pretty young age, I was opened up to a broader creative world than just what we saw on, the usual American TV stations and stuff. And then obviously the like Pokemon Revolution and everything kicked in. And
oh yeah, that just blew up. It actually kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. My brother and I, for whatever reason, our cable picked up some foreign channels, and one of them was a Japanese channel that aired the Japanese Dragon Ball Z months and months in advance of what the US was getting with the dubs.
Spoiler.
Yeah, so we're watching and like no idea what they're saying, but like you said, it was so easy to follow the story because of the action and the way everything was drawn out and animated. So yeah, that was a huge thing.
I remember everybody else is watching like Cell Saga, and I'm watching Trunks and Goten, little Trunks and Goten, dress up in a suit and sneak into the tournament, like super far ahead. But I think a lot of the exposure that we probably got on TV or video games was just a little bit of neglect, where the parents didn't actually know
what we were actually watching.
I don't think my parents would have been okay with the violence of Dragon Ball Z at the time, but
it's funny. My parents were actually, it was a weird thing where they were super aware, but it was a sense of like, I've always had a very, very, even when I was really young, a very, I still need more coffee. I'm thinking of the right proper word for it, but we're just very open with each other. We've always been very open with each other with our ways of communicating and our sense of like, okay, what is this and why is this kind of thing? And I think also because both of my parents came from a love of film and all this, they passed down all of these obsessions to me to some degree.
Right.
So I think sharing it for them, I think when they saw I was invested in this stuff, obviously there were, I remember, as a kid when Mortal Kombat, first came out, there are things, just naturally that a parent will pause at, but I think that they understood, also I was a very, very peaceful child. I was very, I was never showing, violent tendencies or anything. So I think it was one of those things.
That must have been our mistake. That must have been, I had two older brothers, and it was a lot of, we can't even watch Power Rangers without kicking
without
a
fighting
fight
afterwards.
happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I totally. I mean, I totally understand that. You know, I'm sure inside I felt all those things, but I just I was able to have like, you know, an open dialogue a lot with my parents about stuff, and they trusted me. And you know, for me, it was funny. I had a bigger problem with stuff would scare me as a kid. You know, like I would watch things that would terrify me, but I couldn't not watch it. And you're like, so like I would ruin my own part. You know, it was like they were like, yeah, he can handle it, and I'd be like, I can't handle it, but I think I want to.
Yeah. No, I get that. My son's a lot that way. Him and my daughter love horror movies, and I don't know where the obsession came from, but I can't stop them from being
watching it.
to that. And I love horror movies, but we didn't expose them to it. It's just now with like Netflix, everything's at the click of a button. You walk out of the room and you come back and Santa Claus is running elves.
Yeah.
I have no idea where they found it. But I think there was also it's different because our exploration was sort of through Blockbuster and the movie rental.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Scrolling the aisle was a thing unto itself, man.
And the kids these days, they have Netflix and YouTube. And my son found something called Masha and the Bear, which has since been dubbed into English. But at the time, it was just a Russian cartoon that he found on YouTube. And it was crazy. But the music was sort of ethereal, haunting at times, but then sort of like that Russian style at other times. And it was very interesting. And he got hooked on it. And he started talking to me at a certain point in some Russian words at the age of like 3, and I don't know what you're doing, man.
That's so awesome. Well, you know, I've heard from many friends who can speak multiple languages that one of the most efficient ways in for them was actually watching media in another language, because you just start to digest what things mean in the cadence and the way that it appropriates itself in your idea of what your language might be, or you know, like, and it's really interesting to like, I've always wanted to learn another language and like, you know, go like full Rosetta Stone. So I'm very curious about that, and I do think obviously younger minds soak up information in a different way, you know, you know, whether it's just having the space that hasn't been filled up with crap yet, or whatever it is, you know, or that it's
having
just
the innocence to
and
not shy away from it.
You know,
that's also true. Yeah, the inherent kind of openness.
Yeah.
Before being tainted into having too much of an opinion one way or the other.
Well, in kids media too, you know, music and TV shows and stuff made for kids, it's simplified. So the language it uses much simpler terms, and it's easier to pick up on. You know, if you want to learn Spanish, watch some Dora the Explorer. You're legit going to learn some Spanish from that, you know?
So true. And there's nothing to be ashamed of, because it's like you have to start at a rudimentary level.
I'm ashamed because I can't even get that far.
I can't either. I'm lucky I could speak English, and my job is to use my, you know, there are literally times like, it's so weird because, you know, I did a lot of like theater and on-camera stuff too in the before times, and I plan to go back to that when I can. But you know, I'm used to memorizing dialogue and internalizing it and digesting it, and you know, and voiceover, you never have to memorize anything, you know, like unless it's a thing where you really want to digest a line and like really play it to picture in that way, you know, you can, but you never need to. But it's funny because there will be days, because you're just a human being, that your brain, you know, is just weird, and like you'll do a take and I will be reading a line of dialogue and I will like change a word or add a word and like, you know, or whatever it is, and I'll be like, wait, I'm reading it and I just like made up some other sentence that's there. You know, it's so weird.
It's great that you have the confidence to throw the director and the sound engineer off to think that maybe they're wrong.
No, see, I throw them off all the time other ways too. I love getting, I'm very fortunate that the directors and engineers that I've worked with are, one, incredibly talented, and two very, very kind and giving of their time and their energy. And, they will let me, they will let me be goofy with them, but they will also, let me ask, if it's a thing where like, I'm very much the kind of person who I want everyone to be on the same page, and I want to give everybody the best work, and I want the director and the engineer to be happy, with the final result of any take that we're doing. But there are times where like we might do something and, the director's like, cool, moving on, and I still may want to do something. And like, it's a matter of like, I don't want to waste anybody else's time. And, but there's a graciousness that they will have to let me do one more, even if they might not use it, just for, like,
right.
And that kind of stuff has been a really cool thing to experience. And I really, really am grateful for it, because I know that it's not like, everybody's got to do a job and everybody has a way of approaching it. And it's like, I don't want to be the guy who throws the wrench in the gears, but sometimes you just like think you can do something better. You have a different approach. Sometimes it's like, because of, especially with dubbing, it's like you're doing everything and seeing everything for the first time. It's all just watch it, emote, feel it, like react. And, sometimes it's like you'll do a take and say a line, and then you're like, now I know how I actually have to say it, and you'd be like, give me one more take, because now I know what I actually want to like say behind the words,
Do you ever take that home with you? Like wake up in the middle of night, like, oh, damn it, I could have said that better.
Oh my God. That is you try. Yes. The short answer is every creative person, I think. I mean, I'm sure you guys do that with anything, right? It's like, it's a thing where you're always second guessing stuff that you care about, I think, right? When you're passionate about something, and especially when you know that other people are going to experience it, which is still very new to me on this scale. I was in bands and stuff for years, and I've done things, plenty in the public eye, and had, the feedback and all that stuff. But to know that it's now, these are things that are being watched by people all over, and it's part of a culture that I grew up in, loving and understanding what it means to me when I watch these things. I want to deliver.
It's a different sort of like worship that happens with these, with anime and stuff. Like, like people really, really treasure their anime.
Oh yeah,
differently than they do music. But having, also recorded, EPs and albums, it's like, for this podcast, if I don't like something, I have final control. I can go and edit the crap out of it and make him look like an idiot, make me look like a genius, and then put it on.
I'm the one who cuts the interviews. All right.
And there's always final cut. There's a director's cut somewhere.
With recording music, you're often not the sound engineer, and you have some influence, but you're also paying a lot of the times for your own time.
Right. For session time. Right.
Do I really need to do that other take? Do I really need to do we need to do this again? And I think the last EP we did as a group, instead of going one at a time.
Right. You did, which I've always liked more, because you can always do overdubs of like, oh, this lead part or this other thing. But like, get the raw materials all in a live. Yeah. Like
it sounds more live.
Did you play the click track together, or did you guys just play it just off the drummer?
No, we went off the drummer. I have a very good drummer now. And
who just like, there's no like,
and we've done it in the past to click tracks, and we tried it out.
It can come out stale sometimes, depending on totally.
Plus, like I always grew up, I love imperfection in music.
Oh, me too. Yeah, the 60s and 70s, and absolutely that room tone and that. Yeah, dude, all for it.
And if it's too washed out, too clean, I'm not feeling it. And so
give me the string slides, give me the little
all the stuff,
missed notes here and there.
I love. I mean, even it's funny because like there are Beatles songs, Led Zeppelin songs, classic rock songs that you can point out and be like, they slowed down there, like this part's like there's so many chunks, but like it's alive, and that is what speaks to us.
Right. Yeah, I think when I do vocals for anything, I'm much more paranoid about how stuff's coming out. Like even doing a podcast, I'll hear like, why did I put that much space between these two words? It sounds like I sound like a robot talking, and
Dude,
it's
it's hard.
very. I think I just don't like my own voice.
Nobody
And
likes their voice.
thank you.
Nobody likes
I'm
their
trying
voice.
to get that out of people,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just won't admit.
I mean, look, I shouldn't say, I'm sure there are some people who like their own voice, but I've never liked my own voice. It's it's like hearing yourself on an answering machine and being like, it's just that thing.
I think my favorite response to like, do you like the sound of your own voice was, who was it? Billy West. He was like, when I'm doing characters, absolutely. But my own voice, no.
There's definitely like, there's a way to become objective with it. Like I've found that with voice acting, the scrutiny comes during the recording process and during but afterwards when it's done, and I've let go of like, could I do this? Could I do that? I can, because you're watching it with everybody else's collective work. So it's like at that point, I'm not just watching for me, because that at that point it's just like gross and egotistical and pointless. I might as well not watch it. I like watching the finished product because you get to see. That's where like the elements of being in a band come back to me, because it feels like you're recording with other people and you're having a dialogue during the session, and then when the thing comes out, it's like getting to listen to the record, and it's so cool when you get to see everybody's parts, because oftentimes, especially with dubbing, depending on the schedule, like you're not always working off of everybody else's performances. You may be
you
working
could be the
off
first person.
Yeah. Or you just may be, depending on who's in the scene and with what. Sometimes you get this person, they recorded this person, but not this person, or this or that. So it's like, you're not always getting to just work off of like your co-stars, really. Until you see the end product, you don't see the whole thing. And that's where the director really is the, star of the show, in the sense of they have to corral everybody's performance and curate and be aware of everybody's performance so that they line up with what everyone else is doing, and level out all of that stuff, because you're not in the same space at the same time, and you're not doing it at the same time, and you're not getting to live react. So there is an impressive gymnastic kind of thing that has to be done with like curating performances, and that all comes from a director, because every actor is going to, even with the material that is dictating, you're watching an anime, like the artwork's there, it's telling you what the performance is doing.
Yeah.
But you can still, as an actor, have free reign to make emotional choices within that context, and like, there are highs and lows and ins and outs and all kinds of things where like you may approach it one way because you're like, this is what I'm, feeling or seeing it needs to be. And the director may know that, hey, like in context of everything else, it has to be green instead of purple, or whatever it is,
So getting
I know
into
that's kind of abstract. But.
Oh no. We've talked about like abstract with recording, especially music, before. But with all the music talk, I have to know, like, what's some of the major influences for you?
Do you?
Oh man, yeah.
That one's hardest to pin down.
It's so hard, but I mean, it's that thing. Obviously, the Beatles were massive for all of us as kids. My favorite though, like all time favorite singer, Sam Cooke. He was
nice.
my guy. Yeah.
Very good.
I'm a big, I'm really big on kind of like, lately it's funny, I really like a lot of like music that is more instrumental, that is just kind of like atmospheric, that I don't have to focus in on the lyrics.
Yeah.
But growing up, I was all about lyrics, and it was everything from crazy hardcore stuff to like the early days of like Jimmy Eat World's Clarity, like I think about like there was not a time you could find me as a kid without a CD player attached to me, and it was like the
Definitely.
culture of it, like skipping in every capacity all the time, and any no matter what you touched on it,
I think I based my which pants I bought based on if I could fit
fit
a
your
CD
CD.
player.
Oh,
That's right.
absolutely.
That's right.
You know, if the pockets were small,
Absolutely.
it wasn't gonna work. Sorry, Ma.
Absolutely.
And you had to walk like super straight so it wouldn't wobble the CD.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's like, what are you doing? I'm listening to music.
Cargo pants in general were like a thing as a kid because you're like, how
yeah.
many? Like, I'm always going to need more pockets for stuff, But yeah,
Plus-
it's crazy. Music evolved so much so quickly.
Right.
I mean, I remember one of like like the first time like Mars Volta came out. Like I already knew at the drive-in and all that stuff, and like
Yeah.
but the first time you heard something like the first Mars Volta record, and like like you're just like nobody knows how to like explain it, even still you go back and listen to that, you're like this is a just madness. That opened up my eyes a lot to more kind of like avant-garde stuff, because at that point I was like still in high school, and I love jazz and classical and really kind of anything. To me it's more, I don't think too much about like who's making it or any of that kind of context. It's very much like an emotional response for me, where it's like if it doesn't like
invoke,
if it doesn't resonate with me on a level that like takes me somewhere, it's not a matter of anything taste or this or that. It's just it flies or it doesn't. And it's like I've learned to let go of, because as a kid, you're always like, I like this, but I don't like this, or like, this is what I associate with, or this is my aesthetic, whatever it is. I've learned to just like finally let all of that go. And it's like, whatever it is, does it affect me? I dig it,
One of the things we talked about earlier, and I've managed to catch a few of your streams, with video games.
Oh, right on. Oh man, early days on this stuff.
He's huge into video games. I enjoy video games, but I understand my limitations.
See, I'm the big gamer between the two of us, and like I do stream. We talked earlier about enjoying media that tells stories. There's a reason I love RPGs, and do you have a specific favorite genre, and within that genre, a favorite game?
I'm a big RPG guy too. And it's so weird because it's really not a genre, but I just love the like indie revolution that's kind of happened over the last few years.
It's been
about that all the
incredible.
time.
We do.
Great.
Yeah, I saw you playing what was it, Hollow Knight?
Well, that is easily, I mean, like I have a small list of like the god tiers for me that have just like Zelda's up there. There's a few that are like in my heart forever, but I first played through Hollow Knight and beat it about 2.5 years ago or something. And by the time I was finished with it, I was like, well, this is the most extraordinary thing I've ever experienced, like in every way. So that is hands down my favorite game. I just think it is, and I love Metroidvania style kind of things, that sense of like exploration and storytelling through the abstract and the kind of the upgrade system. I love progression in any way where it's like, it doesn't have to be a story that is full of dialogue or people telling it at you, but I need a story and a character to be developed through the process, and like getting ways to like, oh, now I can traverse here because I did this and got and finding secret things, and that Breath of the Wild kind of like
oh, that's such a good game. So what's besides, of course, Hollow Knight, now you're getting into Dark Souls, what's like a favorite game of your childhood? Like you said, you played Super Nintendo, and
I loved, I mean, the classics, obviously. Super Mario Brothers 3 was my personal jam.
That
out of the
best of the
introducing the raccoon tail,
the whistles, just the music was amazing. It was just the pixels were slightly upgraded. Everything was just a little bit tighter,
a little more color.
I loved that game. I loved there was a Tiny Toons game
Yeah,
that was
that
amazing
one.
on Nintendo.
My son for Christmas got this like 500 games in one little. It looks like a Game Boy,
Like
but
Raspberry Pi kind of thing.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
all Super Nintendo and Nintendo games, and it has
Like
that
that and
game.
Darkwing Duck and
Yeah,
Chip
the
and
old
Dale's.
Batman and
Yeah, dude, those games were amazing, and they were all so difficult. You know, like,
Oh my
man,
goodness,
fucking
trying to go
hard.
back and play some of the old games.
well, because I never beat Ninja Gaiden as a kid. Big
Right.
surprise, it's impossible.
What? I never would
so,
have guessed.
yeah, when they released it on the Switch, you know, in the
The
NES
eShop.
section,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you can do the saves, you know, where it's like you can just save
The
depending
save
on- like at any
states
point,
and
you know.
The rewinds.
I got myself through that game because I was like, I have to in my lifetime beat Ninja Gaiden. So because I never got past like level 4 or whatever, you know, and I was like, I have to do this. So I beat it after like saving and stopping and saving and stopping and like finding ways to, you know,
Yeah.
get through it. Because games were just so incredibly punishing then. And you know, all games were Dark Souls back then, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, in a lot of those games, you fail a mission or you get run out of lives. That's it.
Like,
You
game
start the
over, yeah.
entire
Well,
game.
there was like
Someone, did you
over.
see the video of the girl who played recently? She played for the first time the Lion King game.
Oh
man.
no, I haven't seen the video, but I can only
It's-
imagine.
Yeah, it's, you know, everybody knows. And it's really funny because it was like, you know, some girl was streaming it, and she was at the level that everybody knows is notorious. It was the zebra, you know, or the giraffes when you're jumping on the giraffe
The
heads,
giraffe.
and
And-
you can't make it across. You know,
You got to roar at the monkeys and
it's all the things, and like and the controls of that game are garbage, no matter what.
oh yeah.
So
I think that was the I just can't wait to be king level.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be fun, and you're just stressed the whole time and dying like 10 seconds in. And it's so funny because like you see her, you know, like lose, and she's like, okay. And then it's like, you know, game over. And she's like, game over. And then it's like, you know, like it's just like, what do you mean game over? And then like goes to the opening title. She's like, what do you mean game over? You know, like it was like this, like you could like feel the weight, like, you know.
It just piles on like I have to do that again.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
why
man.
games like the Super Mario 3 or the Donkey Kongs where you could stock up on lives. Oh, I'd spend the first hour just getting to like
Oh yeah, just
100
collecting.
lives.
Yeah. Well, nothing. I mean, you know, the Contra code was revolutionary, right? Like the 30 live code was the like, well, if you're going to play that game, you have to put in the code because
You're not getting through otherwise.
yeah, you're not even going to get past the first level.
That's another one they have on that little system. Contra 2. They have the Tiny Toons and Tiny Toons 2 Adventures.
Dude, that's a banger.
Yeah.
He didn't play it. He didn't play it that first day. I was playing it. I was like, you can go away.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
You get this
Like,
later.
You're like, Dad has to test it out, make sure it all works. Every single game.
I just want to go through all the games so I can tell
Yeah.
you which ones are worth it. Okay.
Yeah. And I have to complete them all. So give me a couple of months.
Oh man, talking about that reminded me. You know, with RPGs, what was it? Last year, you know, with everything going on, I was like, you know, I'm gonna play through every Final Fantasy game, every numbered Final Fantasy game.
Yeah,
how'd
how'd that
What?
work out for you?
I
Again.
How
played-
far did you get?
I played through 5, and then
As in,
I got
you got through 5 of them.
yes, and I
Wow.
literally played them like back to back. That's all I played for.
And when did you start
a
this?
couple? Oh man, it was sometime in the summer last year, I think.
That is impressive.
And I got through 5 of them, and you know, I streamed it and everything, and I'm getting a little through 6, and everybody's like, oh, 6 is one of my favorites, and I'm getting through it, and I'm just like, I can't, guys, I can't do this anymore. I need to play something else. I'm starting to dream Final Fantasy.
It's like what we were talking about before. It's like it gets to a point where like you don't even enjoy it because it's just so much of the same thing that you're like, it doesn't, like the feeling almost like gets washed out. and it's like you have to come back to it to
Yeah,
like
it's that
Mhm.
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. And now here I am 70 hours into Bravely Default 2 on the Switch, which is
nice. I heard it's good.
Oh, it's fantastic. I loved the first one. The second one was good. It wasn't as good as the first, but the third one is, well, third. It's Bravely Default 2.
Right.
Gotta
Yeah,
love
it's
numbering
very
system.
confusing. Yeah.
But I absolutely love it. The story is super fun. I'm through chapter 4, and I guess there's like 7 or 8 chapters.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm like halfway through the game, and I'm 70 hours in, and
Did you play one of my favorites was Octopath Traveler?
so that's one I still haven't finished all the way through, only because I'm playing through every single
Yeah, you do.
story.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing. I
so
did all the
it's-
class systems and the secret ones.
Oh
and
man, there's
I went
just
full
so
blown,
much
man.
to do, and
It's a
that
great
was
game.
another one where I was like, okay, I got to take a break.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
big. It's a big game.
Getting back a little more into some of the acting, well, not even just acting. One of our favorite questions to ask is, are there any like funny or weird on the job moments that really stick out to you? So it could be like in the booth, it could be when you were playing music, you know, like those funny stories.
Oh man, I mean, like, there's like so as far as like music, there's so many crazy tour stories from back in the
Yeah.
day.
Oh, I bet.
It's like over the top. But I think like a nice, like, quick short thing that was always funny to me is specifically with like playing live shows. I always loved having older gear, you know, from like the 60s and 70s, you know, my guitars and the tube amps and stuff.
Yeah.
So quite often these venues and stuff and the combination of everything you're plugging in, like the grounding on a lot of these things was not ideal. So the amount of times that I would put my mouth on a microphone and get shocked in the face while trying to sing in front of people and be like, duh, you know, like, and have like a visceral reaction and try and stay in the, you know, the verse happened enough times to laugh about for sure. With acting, less funny stories only because I think the funniest story is the fact that like 99% of my career has been from home. You know, it's pretty crazy because so much of like the first, I would say, you know, 2 years or so, nobody knew who I was publicly. I was working, you know, all the stuff that started to come out, I had already been working on for a while, but nobody knew I existed except for the studios and, you know, the people I was actually doing stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get Twitter until 2018. I was very, very kind of like, I don't even know how to, you know. And so for me, it was kind of like, I had a good chunk of like working in studios and doing stuff in person. And then by the time, you know, I was able to start kind of like announcing things and hanging out and talking to people, it was like, guess what? Stay inside.
Right.
Like, hey, guess what, guys? I got an at-home job. What are you doing? I'm an actor.
Yeah.
Oh, I love.
Yeah.
As a voice actor, you can draw from a lot of different inspirations, but have you drawn inspiration from any other voice actors or on-screen actors throughout your career? Is there anybody you sort of looked up to?
I mean, I genuinely admire all of my, even just contemporary peers. Like,
Yeah.
the people doing work right now are just amazing. I'm very much one of those people, like, I'm inspired by good work in general, whether it's, you know, it doesn't even have to be an actor. It can, you know, be anybody who creates something can, like, you know, gives me the juice. But I've never been the kind of guy who like picks someone and is like, I want to be like that person. I've never like stuck to like a person, be like, that's my goal.
Right.
You know, I look at people's careers and say like, that's a trajectory that I would like to, you know, like think, or these are things I would like to approach. But like, you know, the thing that we like about any individual is their individuality. It's their soul. It's their, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, when it comes down to like giving a performance and, you know, being in the moment, like thinking about like, what would Daniel Day-Lewis do isn't going to help me, you know, I obsess over like good craft, so
Yeah.
like in the moment I am like Philip Seymour Hoffman's one of my all-time favorites. Like there are people that
Oh, yeah.
I will watch, like, oh my god, like the nuance and that, like I digest like like I learned the lessons of like awareness and things, like the little things that I'm like, oh, this is, the processing of this, or like they're not taking this moment to be too big because they're taking it in this place, or like it's those
Yeah.
things that I'll learn from it, but I don't digest it in a way where I'm like, and this is from this school and this is from this person, I'm going to take a little bit of this, and like it kind of just like anything you love, it's just like playing music. You can love certain bands, but you're never going to be able to replicate, even if you tried, what they do. But
Right.
you might, I mean, Bowie's the greatest example of, any Bowie song is a hybrid of like whatever five, bands he was listening to at that time, because he just loved everything, and it was so downloaded into his own personality. And I think that
Yeah.
like that's ultimately what it is. So like I could hit off a list of everybody, all the classics. If you're talking about anime, of course Steve Bloom's in there. If you're
Oh, yeah.
talking about Mel Blanc and the classics, of course, there are so many performances. But I admire anybody who really tries and digs their heels in. And every day, I mean, I see stuff every day from people's announcements, new things coming out. And like, even if I don't get to watch a show, I'll listen to a clip or something. And it just gets me so excited to go do my part, because you hear how much everyone else is really like putting in the passion, and it makes you want to, that in itself makes you want to push yourself even more.
Mhm.
It's that like, it's this really beautiful, like, I've never seen this as a competitive business, even though I know it is. I
Right.
see it as a mutual challenge business where everyone is my mentality is everyone is one-upping each other, in the sense of like, now you kind of thing, like
Well,
in
Which,
a
hey,
I see that a
can be
lot
good. That can be
on
productive.
Twitter, especially, because we follow so many different voice actors, ranging, and actors in general, ranging from people who've been in the business for 30, 40 years and people who just
Mhm.
started last year. And, seeing like this big community come together. And I love seeing it. There's so many times I'll see a post pop up and it'll be, hey, it was liked by Ryan, it's liked by Caitlin, it's liked by,
All the
like
people, yeah.
30 different people. And it's like, man, it really is the biggest close-knit family. As a bit of a follow-up to the influence, kind of, sort of, maybe not really.
Totally different
So
question, unrelated.
getting into voice acting and getting into this career, do you remember like the first person you met or the first thing that happened that you truly were like, wait, I'm part of this. I've
For
made
sure. Well, I've made it, no, but
it. Okay,
like
okay.
like in the sense of, like that. I don't know if there's ever like the I've made it thing is, I think, a weird, like, I know what you're saying, but I think
Yeah.
it's like it's hard for I don't look at it that way. I don't look at like any creative career as a like, well, once I'm here, I'm the cool guy kind of thing, like
Okay.
Well, plus,
to,
if you feel
Well,
like you've made it, you stop working.
well,
yeah.
that's a big part of it. There is no such thing as making it, because there's the reason the reason I love acting is because the next project is always the new challenge. It's the
Yeah.
same reason
Hmm.
why what we talked about with songwriting. Like the second I was done writing a song, I was already working on a different song that was a totally different kind of thing. And like,
Yeah.
I'm my brain kind of needs the next thing. But the first time, one of the first, the real first time that I felt like I can, I can do this. Someone sees me, because that to me was more of a more important distinction, and a more important thing, I think, for anybody who's trying to, create a career. Someone has to give you a shot, no matter what.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter how talented you are. Doesn't matter whatever. And in the beginning, you are operating in this weird space where you are nothing to the world. You do not exist, and you have to find a way in somehow, whether it's community theater or this or that or whatever. So I was doing extra work. I was paying for all the different casting websites and submitting myself to stuff. I was just doing everything, operating as my own everything, spending a few hours every day looking for submissions and auditions for things that I could, put myself out for. And, I, the first time that I actually like felt like, oh my God, really? Like I booked this live action dub for a studio that I ended up working a ton with after that. But it was really funny because I had actually reached out to this studio through email, and I had like sent them some of my work that I'd done. I sent them, a reel and just kind of like a pleasant, this is me email. But anytime I reach out to anybody in this industry at any point, I do so with the full expectation of probably never hearing back.
We understand that.
Yeah, just under the guise of like, a million different reasons why, So it's always send with that expectation. And so I had sent this thing out, and this one place in particular, it was a very strange occurrence where I got a phone call because I had like attached all my info and thing. And I got a phone call, maybe like a week or something later. And it was this casting director, and she was really, really sweet. And she was basically like explaining to me that what I had sent them wasn't what they do, because it was like an animation, kind of centric thing that I sent them, because it was the work that I've been doing. And they were doing primarily live action dubbing, which is a completely different approach of everything. And so she was basically calling me to let me know, like, hey, this isn't what we do, but thank you for, reaching out to us. And, so I was fully just kind of like hearing her and just, basically hearing it as like, thanks, but like, we're not, we don't need your services kind of thing.
Right.
And so I was like, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't realize, blah, blah, blah. I really appreciate you taking the time to call me to even reach. Cause I mean, most of the time people, even if they read email, they can just not, they don't need to respond. They don't need to
delete,
Yeah. And totally understandable. Like there's no responsibility there. They don't owe me anything. So I thought I was so taken aback by just being called to theoretically be rejected. I thought that was so charming, So I was like, thank you so much for letting me know. And there was like a pause on the phone, and she was like, I like the sound of your talking voice. Come in for an audition. And
oh, wow.
So I was like, okay. So I went into the studio that was nearby, and they were working on this project, and it was the lead character in this live action dub for like a French show. And the character was like this kind of soft spoken, kind of sweet dude who like used to be a musician, like all these elements where I was like, I know this guy. Like
this is a stretch.
Yeah. And they brought me into this, this big studio room with this giant screen, and the microphone. It was like, and the casting director was there, and there was an engineer and director, and there was like a producer. It was like, 4 or 5 people in the room.
Yeah.
And they're all like behind me, and it was like this big thing. And they're like, okay, so like, we're going to play the scene. They basically, this is how we're going to do it. And it was like my first time, dubbing a thing. So they were like, we're going to play the scene. Here's what the dialogue is like. We'll give you a run through, and then, just go for it. Just kind of give us, your take on it. It was like just a live audition.
Yeah.
So I did a take, just internally panicking, and I just kind of went for it, and like had no idea if anything I was doing was, right. And and I turned around, and they were all just kind of like, okay, cool. Like they were vibing off it. And then she like gave me a little direction and was like, tweak this, XYZ, whatever. And then they gave it to me again. And, I took the notes and ran with that. And then they were like, all right, are you available for like, this week to this week? Are you around? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, cool. Well, if we end up needing you, we'll let you know. Thank you so much. And I was like, thank you for having me. And then like 2 days later, they called me and told me that I booked it. And it was just one of those things where even in the room, even I knew then, like, even if I didn't book it, these people were taking their time out to give me this time and this opportunity to even just like understand how this works. Like even for them to like get me through the process, and whether or not they liked me or not was I thought so, that was powerful to me. And it gave me a sense of confidence, because so much of what I was doing before that was auditioning on a crummy USB mic in front of my computer, kind of like this, so like no atmosphere, like totally in a vacuum to myself, and
Right.
getting no feedback, not understanding, and otherwise I was doing acting outside of that, but it was so much of it was in a vacuum, and to be brought into a place where I could vibe off of people's energy and hear their words and respond to them and get that. I was like, one, it felt like they saw me, and two, the process was like instantly addicting. I was like, this is it. Okay. So yeah, when they cast me for that was the first time that I was like, I can do this.
Now that we've talked about a ton of different fandoms, ton of different works and worlds and everything, I have to ask, if you were to be stuck in a world, video game, in a world, with Ryan Colt Levy. So if you had to be stuck in a world, video game, TV show, cartoon, anime, whatever, what would it be?
That is really tough.
I know the right answer, so I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Oh, what's your answer? Yeah, please. What's your answer?
It's a tough one, because when I approach this question, it's like, well, if I'm into, like, I would love to be in the Star Wars universe, but am I stuck on Tatooine? Do I really want to be stuck on Tatooine for my entire
you're just literally some nobody.
Is it for the week? Is it for all time? What are the parameters?
Isekai, like you get transported into this world, and that's where you live the rest of your life.
I would probably go Pokemon, because any idiot can be a Pokemon master in the show. I've watched it. Like,
you know what? Honestly, that's a good call. It's also like, it's so wholesome that like even
like if you're
the
homeless,
worst case scenario,
really homeless,
everyone's happy even when they're mad. You know what? I'm taking your anser. You're right. You're totally right.
You're not supposed to feed him answer.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? Honestly,
what if I'm stuck in Hogwarts in Harry Potter, but I don't know magic? Like, that would suck.
Yeah.
Well, then you're literally just living in England.
Yeah, I think about
then you're just living your normal life.
I think you're just an English person. Yeah. You're just in Manchester. No, Pokemon, also the fact that like you literally have all these amazing critters that are your friends that like you get to hang out with and stuff. So like,
yeah, and people rarely die. I've seen the show. People rarely die.
Do people ever die?
I mean,
has anyone died in Pokemon?
I think a couple Pokemon died.
Yeah,
no.
But they got brought back to life once.
Yeah, it's like fatigued. They're just sleepy.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking.
It has been.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Honestly. And,
honestly, at this point, we're just kind of starting to feel bad for taking up so much of your time.
Oh, no. I appreciate you guys reaching out, and truly it's so like, I still feel very, very new, to this whole industry, and and anybody, you guys reaching out to me and wanting to connect more and help just share all of this stuff. And for our whole community and industry, like it really does mean a lot, to all of us. So it is genuinely appreciated, guys.
Getting to know you has been fun, man.
Pleasure. Same.
To see. I saw. I think it looks like you're gonna have a lot of work coming up.
There's some cool stuff. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where everything I've been doing recently seems like it's probably all going to come out closer to the same time than not, which is odd, because it's going to just be like, sorry. So
that's fine.
I hope you enjoy it, but I'm excited. Thank you for being awesome and just supporting me and supporting all of us. And this podcast is rad. So Thank you guys.
We'll really appreciate it, man. I'll continue to comment silly gifs and stuff on your Twitter posts.
Much appreciated, friends. Stay safe, and to a future where we can see each other in person one day.
Absolutely.
Right. Hope to see you at the convention sometime.
Awesome.
That would be real cool. All right, man. Take it easy.
Cheers, y'all. Take care.
See ya.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hey, this is Tired Dad, and you've been listening to the Two Dads in a Podcast interview series. For more content, like and subscribe to this channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitch, and everywhere podcasts are available. To help us bring you more of these amazing interviews, you can support us on our Patreon. Just follow the links below, and thanks for watching.